Hello and welcome to Traditional Stitches FlossTube video number 18. I'm Janice Spencer, the owner of Traditional Stitches, and with me today is Rose Hecht. Hi Rose.
Hi Janice.
So we're here today to talk about a number of things, including our Hands Across the Sea Stitch Along group, which you're leading. We're going to talk about some other Traditional Stitches exclusives. We're going to have a little bit of a Nashville Needlework Market parade. I have a bucket of things that I brought from the shop that I want to show everybody. And then just to catch up on what we're working on and how things are going.
That sounds like a plan.
So we're getting pretty excited. Next week, we're going to start shipping our Jeanette Douglas Traditional Stitches exclusive project. And so Jeanette and I did a video a few weeks ago that talked all about these projects, and so I'll link that below if anybody wants to see them, but I do have them here with me today, so I'm just going to show them off again briefly. So there's charts for 5 different smalls in the chart pack, and I have 4 of them here. The chart pack includes finishing instructions for the different techniques, so they have all kinds of combinations that you can make these into. So this pincushion. So Jeanette designed these for our shop's 20th anniversary, which was actually 2 years ago. And just with everything else that's been going on in the world, that's how long it took to get them out. This one I love. It's tiny, and I really like this silk ribbon finish on the edge. So it's just tacked down randomly with beads, and it's beautiful. A little bow tie in the corner. And a tall, skinny drum.
Very nice. And
then this little sausage. We had originally designed this to go on a spool, but life has thrown us a few little curveballs that we had to adapt it. So it still has this cool button and lace finish effect on it, and nun stitch edge on it. So the chart packs come with all of the stitching and finishing instructions and enough thread to do 2 of the smalls. And it also comes with this little pack of buttons. See if you can see that. So nice. Buttons for each end of the sausage, as well as for lacing it up. So yeah, fun. Nice. I cannot wait to start shipping these and people to start receiving them to see how cute it is in person.
I can't wait to get my hands on one.
Yeah, so just a fun idea, and Jeanette is so versatile, and once she gets started with the ideas, they just start rolling. So we had a lot of fun with this.
I bet.
So we'll start shipping those probably towards the end of the week that's coming up.
Okay.
Huh. And so it is going to be a limited edition exclusive chart pack that is only available through Traditional Stitches. So then our first Hands Across the Sea Stitch Along we want to talk about is the Eliza Martha Linfoot. How's that going for you?
It's going good. I, of course, haven't picked it up since last month. I did the month, whatever it is. Sorry, I'm losing track. So there is the progress so far. I'm cool. Sorry for the crease in it, but I don't think this is nothing compared to yours.
Oh yeah. So at the cost of all of my other stitching, I did finish Eliza Martha Linfoot. There she is in all of her glory.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah, so this color of linen, every time I take it out to show somebody, it looks totally different depending on the light. It is really just like a mocha-y brown, but sometimes it reads as purple, sometimes it reads as really pink. And so, yeah.
It's a chameleon.
It is. And I tucked my initials just down into this corner, my initials and the date. I didn't want them to be in your face, but they're a little bit blendy there. So I'm really happy with that.
Good. It looks
So
wonderful.
Thank you. So I definitely need to book an appointment to go see our framer, Edie. And I've got this and another one that I'll show you that I need to take to her as well. Yeah. So if my records are correct, the 1st of April will be the start of part 7 for the Eliza Martha Linfoot stitch along.
That's right.
And so that is this wording here that has Eliza's name and year. And it also includes the 2 swans. Does that sound right?
That could be right. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, and my apologies. I did not pull it up.
Yeah. So that's pretty achievable bit for April.
It is.
The thing that was daunting to me was the idea of this solid stitching of lawn on the bottom. So that's about 4 or 5 different colors, and it's just cross stitch and it's solidly stitched, but I enjoyed it more than I think I would admit.
It's funny. I find it kind of daunting too and boring, but listening to some floss tubers, they like working on those solid stitching, whether they go to a retreat, whether they're watching TV or listening to audio, they find it's mindless stitching that they can double duty something. So everyone has their own approach on that kind of solid stitching.
Well,
So,
I used I used a little bit of a reward method for myself. So I would stitch 1 full strand of lawn, and then I'd go do something fun in the basket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the whole reward stitching thing, do something that's maybe not as enjoyable, and then go and do something that's enjoyable. Yeah,
it's a good idea.
Well, I'm thinking about it because I don't know what is going to be like when we get to that section. I do want to tell you guys how I tackled my basket on the bottom, because that is the satin stitch with the 100/3 and stem stitch for the outline. So on the advice of some of my stitching friends, I did the satin stitch first, which is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to put the stem stitch in first so that all I had to do was fill in the satin stitch. But by doing the satin stitch first, I had to count it. And but then the stem stitch stands out on top of the satin stitch quite nicely to make the grooves of the basket. So I'm happy that I did it that way. And also I'm stitching with the 100/3. And it's not really, doesn't really lend itself that well to satin stitch. So I did find that I did the whole basket, and then I went through, and about every 3rd satin stitch, I put in an additional leg, just 1 stitch to fill it in a little bit better. So I didn't think that I needed to do it on every one, but.
Okay, it's a good idea. I have done that in the past, where after I have done satin stitch, I've stepped back and looked at it to see if it was full enough, and then went back and proceeded to fill in as I needed. And it's a good idea. So,
and it compensates a little bit for the thick, thin bits on the linen.
The last time we talked, you mentioned about how you were going to do your stem stitch. And I believe you had mentioned about holding it in hand. Yeah. Did you want to cover that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. Was I did the satin stitch while it was still in my scroll frame, and then to do the stem stitch, I took it out of my scroll frame so that I could sew it. Just because the whole process of the stem stitch works really well for sewing, the sewing method, and I felt that it let me manipulate where the threads ended up a little bit better, and so I'm really happy with the results. I wasn't sure I was going to be, but it turned out great.
It looks really good. I don't see nothing wrong with it, and I like the idea of holding it in hand after the fact. I am one of those that thinking about stem stitch kind of, you know, causes a little bit of apprehension on my part. So that would be a way of tackling it. So good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I think that's it for Eliza Martha Linfoot, but we should talk about Esther Blackwood. So that's the other Hands Across the Sea Samplers stitch along that we're doing, and it is traditional stitches exclusive, only available through our shop, not even through Nicola's website. And Rose is leading our stitch along for this sampler.
That's right. So we are coming into month 4. Okay. Here is the 2 motifs that we're going to do. Okay. And as per discussion on our last month, I might have mentioned either on our video, but I did definitely on our Facebook page, that this is quite a bit of work, this band below. So what I decided to do, and I mentioned to everyone else, is when I do the 2 motifs, I would do the corresponding dividing band underneath it. And then I'm going to move on to these next 2, and I'm going to do the dividing band corresponding, and then moving on. So I found that was actually quite effective, and that's what I did. And actually, I had talked to some people that says, oh, that dividing band, it's a lot of work, a lot of color changes and that. It was so much fun, I didn't want to quit. It was, I don't know, it was rewarding. Plus, I picked up the one color. Do you remember we had the problem with the one blue color? It wasn't quite right. I picked it up last week and I put it in, and it just made it pop. So I'll show you where I'm at so far. This is a little bit, there we go, a little bit cumbersome. Okay, so that's where I'm at, and you can see that dividing band. I just kind of went until I felt it was time to maybe quit. So maybe I went a little further, but that's okay. You do you.
Yeah,
and
it's so pretty.
It is very pretty. I love the fuchsias, which are my favorite motif on here. We're not going to get to your favorite motif until month 5, which is the Morning Glories.
But did you see that Lisa V posted a nice close-up picture of that in our Facebook group?
Oh,
she didn't do it. She didn't do it for me, but it was really nice to see it in detail.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I did see a number of people who took your suggestion about working that intensely colored band across just as they go with the section, and that seemed to make a lot of sense. So that was a really good idea.
It did. And when I had posted this picture of my dividing, how I divided it, it's not written in stone. I didn't know how long maybe one area of motifs would take, and that's fine. You know, if you expand it into the next month or you do it the month before, that's okay. Nobody has to do it, you know, following what I had put. So a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
So the next section that's up is this, these 2 motifs here, and whether people want to choose to do that band there. Now, we've started to see quite a few finishes of this sampler on our Facebook group. And one of the ones that stood out to me in the last few days was Joyce's finish, where she took these motifs and she actually evenly spaced them out in the band, instead of like these guys are a little bit clustered and then there's lots of, and I thought that that was really clever. But the thing that made, when we talked about this a little bit a few minutes ago, is why would Esther have clustered these guys together? And maybe somebody who knows more about the symbolism that's in this sampler will know if they should be more grouped, or, but you never know what happens in a girl's mind when she's working a sampler.
I know. It's really interesting. You know, same with in the top part where there's a whole, this whole area that is empty. And I've looked at it thinking, do I want to maybe personalize it? And we had a little bit of discussion about how maybe you might want to personalize it, or for that matter, if you wanted to change things, you know. So if there's something in this sampler that you want to change, pull out, put in a different motif, this is definitely doable because being a Berlin woolwork, Berlin, I believe, yeah, you can, you know,
Okay.
switch
Yeah.
things around. So maybe you like a motif here and you want to switch out something here. That's very possible. You might want to pull out a motif and put in your own personalization, your initials, or if it's big enough that you can put your full name and the date type of thing. And I had mentioned, and I had showed also, and I noticed that you guys carry it. I have this book.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have used this to personalize different charts, different samplers type of thing. So this is a really good resource for if you want to change something up.
Yeah,
Okay.
even just looking on the cover, I can see some ideas that would fit in with Esther's sampler, or if you wanted to fill in some white space or something, that would totally work as well.
Exactly.
But we do have that book in stock in the shop, so I'll link that below.
Yeah, and it does have alphabets in the back. It also has, and I'm holding it upside down, but it has graph paper also. I'm old school. I don't have software to chart something. If I'm going to chart something, I have to graph it out. So the old school of copy and paste is me. So.
Cool. Well, those are great ideas. So we do still have charts and kits available for this exclusive sampler, and you're welcome to join us. The other thing is that even if you don't pick up the sampler chart, I really enjoy our Facebook group, and so anyone is welcome to join the Facebook group and see what everybody's doing. I noticed that there's been a little bump in Ann Morrison sampler finishes on the group lately, and yeah, so it's a really great group.
There has been a bump of new memberships. I think there was a week ago, there was in one day about 14 new members.
Ah.
And so the word is getting out, people are noticing, and that's great. So
Cool. Well,
yeah.
welcome everybody.
Yes, yes.
Cool. So then the next thing on my list is to show off some of the Nashville Needlework Market haul.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a small amount because to show it all off would take hours. So these are just some special things that we brought back that maybe appealed to me personally, or I didn't think got the screen time that it should have. But so we were brave. We went to Nashville. It was Nashville 2020 was the last real thing that we did before COVID. So it was really special to me that Nashville 2022 was the first kind of real thing that we did again. It just made it all come together. And it was so great to see everybody and just be back doing what we want to be doing. So I was lucky to be able to go. I took Kim with me, who is a newer employee in the shop, and she was a trooper. She worked so hard, but it was really interesting for me to see things fresh through her eyes, because I've been doing it for so long that I'm all about getting the work done, taking care of my list, making sure I pick everything up. And so she was looking at it through fresh, eager, keen eyes, and that was good for me to see.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. So, Heart in Hand. So Cecilia talked about these actually quite early on. These are the little red handcrafted bowls that she was taking pre-orders for that sold out weeks before market.
Oh.
We actually still have about a dozen left. So if you thought that you missed out, and this gives you an idea of the scale, and then this is the chart that is meant to be stitched to make the top of the bowl. So a little orb bowl. We have people who ordered multiples of these, thinking that they're going to be really good Christmas presents and gifts. So yeah, so this is stitched on 32 count linen, and then I'm just going to look, and it's all cross stitched, so you could totally do it on Ada as well. And then it's mounted in a lid to go on this guy. So beautiful.
It is.
Alrighty, and then this is the impulse item section of the Janice couldn't resist, and so this was a new vendor at Nashville, and these are needle minders. They are fused glass needle minders. So they are so pretty. So I'm just going to see if I can see the dimension in that.
Yeah.
And the colors are just beautiful. So these topiaries came in 4 or 5 different colors. And then there's this one that just to me screams the beach and the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Just so pretty.
That is.
And then I got a couple of different styles that have kind of a metallic in them. So this is the blue one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so all kinds of colors. And then the green. Like, look at how jewel tony that is. I couldn't resist. So that's my impulse.
Those are very artsy. Those,
yeah.
Those are very nice.
Okay, and then one of my favorite people to always visit with and to see top of my list at Nashville is Lori at Dida. She has her color sense is awesome, and she had, I think, about 8 new releases at market, 6 of which were charts and 2 were kits. So I'm going to show you the 2 kits and the ingredients in the kits and just how beautiful they are, because I have them and I can do that. So this is called To Gather Again, and you can make it into like a needle roll or a framed piece or a drum. To gather again with needle and thread, which kind of was the whole theme of Nashville. So I pulled it out of the bag so I didn't make crinkly noises. So this is how the kit comes presented. So there's linen, and this would be Weeks Dye Works linen and needle. And then the chart I have here has all of the instructions, the lining fabric, a bundle of thread, and this is a combination of hand-dyed cotton and DMC, some felt for finishing, and a pretty little pin in silk ribbon. So just all in all, it just is a beautiful put up for these kits. And we actually have some available still, which always surprises me because the Dida kits are super popular and people will ask for them for years down the road. So then the other kit is the Summer Stitcher Needlebook Kit.
That's pretty.
And beautiful linen, all the threads, the lining fabric, and the felt to do it. Everything's right there. So these are pretty special. Yeah, and then so like I said, Lori also had some charts, and one of the charts that she had, I didn't bring with me today, but it's for a needle roll, and she has 2 different colorways available for this needle roll, and they're not pictured on the front cover, but I did take picture with my phone, so I'm going to insert those here as well so that you can see them. And then there'll be links to everything below in our description section as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and I better not lose the bits. That last little Stitchers kit has these little brad tacks in it, and I better just make sure that they go where they belong.
Nifty.
This was exactly my style of thing. This is Erica Michael's English Sampler Berries set. So it includes the graph for all 3 berries and the stitching and finishing instructions, and they're just beautiful colors and nice bands and motifs, and just a nice quick little project, but that's been really popular too.
Mhm.
And then one of the top sellers for us for Nashville was from Rosewood Manor, this Tisket a Tasket. And to see this in person in Karen's room, stitched and framed, was just outstanding. Sometimes you just can't get such a good idea of things until you see them in person. So
Everybody's been talking about that piece.
yeah. And then on the back, these are digitized, but ideas of motifs and things that you can take out of it to do smalls, and yeah, very popular. We've sold out. We're just waiting for more to arrive.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes, and then of course, Blackbird Designs, they never show previews of their things. We did know about one special thing that they released at Nashville, but I did bring the books to show all of you. Sometimes in Nashville, it ends up that there is a theme that nobody planned on. That this year it was bees. There were lots of bees in samplers, whether it was incidental or it was the theme of the design, but this year's theme was definitely lots of bees. So this is Blackbird's chart, Humming of the Bees.
Mhm.
And it's just lovely.
I think
Another
so.
red brick house for those of you that love that. So stitched with hand-dyed cotton on, of course, picture this plus linen, and just can't wait. Definitely jumped into my basket. And then
I'm not surprised.
yeah, and then the book, A Heart Remembers. And this includes a number of designs in the book. And the dedication reads, this book is dedicated to the memory of my dear friend, Barb Adams. Wish you were here. Everything was better with your ideas, designs, and sense of humor. Miss you more than words can say.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. So some pretty samplers.
Was
in
that
there.
the one that she had flown up and made a print for her wall?
Yeah,
I
did you
believe
see-
it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Gorgeous.
And from a photo that she took from her iPhone. Not even a professional photography.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's the out of print series that has been reprinted in the book. So that's really great that those are available to us again in a different format. There's a couple of things that have been out of print in here, such as this pincushion.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful book.
It sure looks like it is.
Yeah.
I haven't ordered it yet.
This is so pretty. Yes. Anyways.
Very nice.
And then the other thing from Blackbird at Nashville was, of course, our sampler. Our 20th anniversary What Remains is Love sampler was reprinted. So we have those
Nice.
available too. And that's actually the other thing that I'm going to take to the framer. Here. When I go to take in my Eliza Martha Linfoot is Kathleen's version of What Remains is Love. So I'll put that over here with the sampler. I can know what'll happen. Yeah.
I'm laughing at how nicely you put it down, because years ago you said that Edie usually gets your pieces all crumpled up because you usually stitch in hand, and there you went and laid it down really nicely, and it's like, oh, no, that isn't usual.
I don't know, maybe I'm maturing in my old age.
Maybe you are.
Okay.
No.
So the other, we had a sneak preview of this a couple of videos ago with my Jeanette Douglas video, and this was one of her releases that has been super popular. And this is Vintage Flowers 2.
Mhm.
So it is stitched on a 40 count seraphim linen, hand dyed, called Rustic Charm, which we have in the store, using hand dyed cotton. So isn't that pretty? Like this, that butterfly motif would be so fun to stitch. And I really like this too.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the motif, the flower with the bird on top, and does it look, is it a square kind of flower, or I'm just trying to.
Yeah, it's kind of a bulb. Yeah.
Okay.
It's round,
It's
rounded
hard
on
to
the
tell.
edges. It's kind of an oval.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. But like, look at even these two this roses
know.
and the rosebud. That would be, to pull that out and put it on something would be awesome. So
It would be.
lots of resources. Maybe one of those motifs could go in the Esther Blackwood sample.
I agree. And either the rose or the butterfly would definitely be my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so the model was stitched on 40 count linen using hand-dyed cotton thread.
it's interesting to see some of these things, and I've seen them before, but I'm seeing them with fresh eyes. And I've seen the vintage flowers too before, and I'm looking at it again going, oh, I haven't really noticed it as much as I did before. And I think because you're so overwhelmed with a barrage of things, and now you just see them in their own element. So yeah, those things that you never knew you needed.
Yeah, we need them all.
We need them all. We definitely do. Yeah.
So the other thing that I came home with that I wasn't really expecting was a little bit of hand-dyed linen. So we had quite a good visit with the Zweigart rep from Germany at Nashville. She flew in for the show, and we had we had a meeting with her and also a beverage. And so she filled us in on how things are going with fabric. And the reason why there's no hand-dyed fabric, particularly in the 40 count, to really get our hands on, is because the mill can't make it fast enough to supply the hand dyers. So we've been talking to some of our hand dyers over the past couple of weeks, and they've said that it's been a while since they've been able to get the 40 count base to dye on, which is why there's such a shortage of it, especially when they're ordering in the quantities that they are ordering. So the lady from Zweigart said that they've bought a couple more mills and they're bringing on more production staff. So they have plans to increase their volume. But then yesterday when I was talking to her, she said that they've got COVID going through their production facility. So that puts a whole pause on everything yet again. So
yeah, I think the last couple of years with COVID, there's been an increased demand. People are buying linens like it's no tomorrow, like, you know, that there's going to be a shortage. And obviously there is now. Plus, I think there is a lot of new dyers out there, independent dyers and the larger dyers. And so the need for that, plus, you know, the influx of, you know, purchasing has, you know, created a huge demand for it, and not enough to go around.
Yeah, well, those of us who had stashes before COVID were pretty glad of that. That's for sure. So I totally understand people wanting to have a selection of good size cuts on hand going forward, just to be sure. So I'm going to show some of them to you. And this was I just grabbed them on my way out of the shop yesterday, so just a couple. And this linen actually did not come from Nashville. This came from France, and I believe I have a piece set aside with your name on it.
Oh yeah, I know.
This is the Tabby Cat creme brulee. And this is 46 count, actually, this piece. So lots of really great modeling in it. And this is the color that Nicola has been using for quite a few of her models, including the Rose and the Giant Pear chart. So we got that in 36, 40, and 46 count.
And I think my piece that's coming is already designated for a couple of pieces. One for sure, and one we'll see. So that's exciting.
Well, we'll have to see it. Yeah. And then I hadn't picked up linen from Fiber on a Whim before this Nashville market. So I did bring back quite a nice assortment of them. And their theme this year was coffee things. So milk and cream and all that kind of thing. So we've got those listed on our website, and we do have stock. So this one is called Silver Fox. And it is, I wonder if I can get a better picture of that. Okay, so it's a dusty blue-green, nice mottled color. I believe that Kathy Barrick maybe used it in one of her Nashville releases, but I think she calls for it in 36 count, and this is 40 count. So it's just a really gorgeous color. You know what would probably work really good on this is that Cottage Garden Samplings, the Fox. So this is a whole lot greener than the fabric that it calls for, but it'll be a while till we get the fabric that it calls for. So this might be really pretty.
Yeah. That would work.
And then this was another one that I grabbed from Fiber on a Whim, and this is called Hazelwood. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, that is.
Yeah, so it's nice brown, neutral, samplery kind of fabric. Yeah. So that is the end of my bucket, but you had a couple of things from Nashville that you wanted to talk about.
Sure. I will just, okay, so the first one, Carden Antiques and Needlework, and correct me if I'm wrong, put out one sampler called Jane Penny, I believe. I just have the photo here. She is very pretty, and I'd seen her early on, and I don't know if she got the attention she deserved. She has a brick house in it, and that maybe is one of the themes, is there's a lot of brick houses, and people love their brick houses. And you're going to show a photo, so I won't bother showing it.
I'll insert it here.
She has this beautiful upper dividing band, and I don't know how to describe the flowers. You'll have to go and see what I mean. And she has alphabet and she has initials, so pretty sure this is a Scottish sampler. The next one is Anne Roberts from Hands to Work, Tracy Ripple, and there again, she has another house. But what's unique with this one is it's a patchwork house. And the colors, and it goes kind of with her bird that she had. She had a patchwork bird piece. And this one is really lovely too. And it has a border that almost looks like strings of Christmas lights. They're red and green, so they're probably leaves, but they're really nice. And
well, those two were a good example of a leaflet that you might pass by in a shop, but seeing the actual samplers in person at market really made a difference.
Yeah. And the other one that I really like, and I've been watching different floss tubers, and a lot of them have brought this up, is the one from Plum Street Samplers that is called This Is the Day. And it has another big brick house. So there again, it has that theme of the big brick house. It has a big, large bouquet of flowers, and it has a Bible verse underneath. And it's interesting. You can take motifs out of this and work on them alone. You could make the top part as a drum. You can do a lot of different things. You can pull a motif out of here and put it on Esther Blackwood if you wanted. So lots of different ideas. So those were three more that I really liked that I never mentioned before.
Well, the other one we talked about before we started videoing was Teresa Kogut's Market Exclusive. That's called Love is the Key, that she had done a really good job of sharing her Nashville releases and marketing them a couple weeks before market. And this was kind of the surprise, and it is beautiful. And so we came home with a bunch of copies of that too, and I'll insert a photo here. And then the last one that I wanted to mention was Kim's favorite, which was the Fox and Rabbit Hannah Dawson chart. So this is a sampler that has so much going on. There's a huge variety of specialty stitches, including rice stitch, which we don't see a ton of it in samplers. And every time you look at this sampler, you see something new and different, and it's going to be a total adventure to stitch. So I'll insert a big picture here. One thing that Kim did was she took her phone, she had a brand new iPhone, and so she was taking lots of pictures of these things. And I thought, I have all the pictures on my website. Why are you taking pictures? Well, on the flight home, she sat in the aisle ahead of me and I was behind her. And so she had her phone out and she was going back through all the pictures and she was zooming in on these details of these samplers. And I had a whole slideshow the whole entire flight just because I was sitting behind her watching her go through her. So now I see why.
And she's right about that. You don't necessarily see all the detail in a sampler. Now, if you are right in front to see the true sampler, that might be one thing, but still you don't see all of the details. And I just brought Hannah Dawson up and I just realized that there are these two red lions with their tail wrapped around the tree trunks of a spruce tree or whatever. It's like, I never saw that before. And there again, it has the big house. So maybe that's one of the themes, is bees and big houses. Yeah, Fox and Rabbit, they put out the three, and on any given day, this one is a favorite. Oh, and then tomorrow this one is a favorite. And I think I like all three that they put out. They cannot go wrong.
No, they're beautiful for sure.
They are.
Cool. Well, I'm kind of a little bit sad that I have to wait a year to do it all over again. But on the other hand, hopefully all of the COVID testing hoops that we had to jump through are not a thing the next time we go. Shouldn't be. So, but that was very distracting. So I was really glad when that was all over.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. So what are you stitching on these days?
Primarily, well, I mean, I always do a coffee and cross stitch in the morning. So I have littles, and I've been working on patterned pretties from Jeanette Douglas. I have a few in my stash. So I'm working on my third one, and I don't know where my third one is. So I won't, probably best if people just go online and take a look at yours. But the one I'm primarily working on, and I feel like a broken record, but it is Margaret Hodden. Sorry, I have so many names in my head. And I'm coming to the end of the bottom of it.
Oh.
It's very pretty. And then once I'm done this, the lettering, I have another border here, dividing band, I guess. And then I have to start the border. And the border is no slump. It's got a lot of satin stitch, and it's very pretty. Oak leaves, I think, or acorns and leaves, and it's going to be a lot of work ahead. So that's been my thing. I've been pretty monogamous with that. I would like to get that done sooner than later. And so that's basically what I've been working on, other than my stitch alongs, which will start again with Esther, and then Eliza, and Rose Ada Featherstone. And then what's my last one? Oh, Jeanette Douglas, her mini. Yeah. So I can show you, got it piled up here. We'll show you Jeanette's. I'm looking for my last one and I don't see it. So this is Jeanette's monthly stitch along that she's offering free. I don't know if I showed this the last time or not,
Mm.
but there's a third one.
Oh, pretty.
And next week I'll put in the fourth one. And I've just been pulling colors from my stash, whether they follow her, what she has, or colors that are similar. So I wanted to make this a true stitch along where I didn't have to worry about buying a bunch of new colors and that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun. And then the other one, here it is one from Hobby House Needlework, and it's a Hands Across the Sea sampler, and she is called Rose Ada Featherstone. I'll pull the picture up. So.
Hey, another red house.
Yeah. I always thought I was all about the alphabets, but this year it's been all about the houses. And this house is, I've just been doing it in DMC, 40 count vintage country mocha. So I've just pulled my own. And the house is actually a copper house. It's DMC 920. So if you're familiar with DMC, it's not quite red. It's like a burnt reddish orange. She's really pretty. So, and I've been following that stitch along, you know, faithfully. I haven't gone ahead. I have enough, you know, to keep me busy. So that's what I've been working on. So how about you?
Well, after I finished Eliza, I went back to the pub.
Okay.
So that is Scarlet Letters, Peacock, Unicorn, Badger. And I hadn't stitched on that for a while. And I was worried that when I pulled it out, I'd have to unpick a whole bunch of stuff because the last time I worked on it, I was under quite a bit of stress in my life. And I thought probably it was showing in my tension that all my stitches were too tight, but they're fine. So.
Okay, good.
So this is it. So solid stitched, soie d'Alger, 40 count lambswool linen, and it's hard to put it down, that's for sure. Yeah.
This silence is more of a admiration and love for that piece, and it's not in my stash yet. I've been enjoying yours and everyone else's. There's a few people that have been stitching on that piece.
Yeah, I saw a finish on social media in the last week or so. So that was very inspiring too.
For sure.
Yeah, so I love it. I love working with the soie d'Alger too. It just makes such nice plump cross stitches.
A lot of people don't necessarily like the lambswool linen from Wichelt. Personally, I kind of like it. It gives you a really crisp stitch. Yeah, you don't lose stitches like some things. It isn't too soft. It's almost like needlepoint.
Yeah, it's an excellent ground fabric. I do find that I need to use shorter lengths of thread because it does kind of take the shine, makes the thread fuzzier faster, but you just adapt. Maybe a bigger needle would probably also make a difference as well. So
yes,
maybe I'll try that. That's a good idea.
Yes. Margaret Hodden is on 35 count lambswool linen, and you're right, it's just DMC, but it does wear out the thread a little bit quicker. It could be just it's a little coarser of a fabric, maybe closer to the flax, then it's not worked in the mill as much, and so you have to have shorter threads.
Yeah. So the other exciting thing that happened this week was we met with our local sampler guild for the very first time in person in 2 years. So we have a sampler guild in Calgary called the Dearly Wrought Sampler Guild, and they've been around for 23 years. And so to get to see everybody, well, not everybody, but a handful of people chose to come and to the meeting in person. And then we had another handful that our fearless leader set up a Zoom meeting. And so that was really great.
So it was a combination of in person and virtual. Good idea.
Yeah, and it worked quite well. In the couple years that have passed, we've had some members that have moved away, but still want to remain active members of the guild. So this was a really great way to include them.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, so just nice to see those people again.
Yeah.
And what have you got coming up?
Well, other than I have those 4 stitch-alongs to starting on the 26th, which is tomorrow, and then I'll move through to my next 3, and working on Margaret Hodden, and the weather is turning out, nicer and nicer, and so getting out more and more, and oh yeah, and a deck that we have to build.
Oh no.
Yes, my hubby, in his infinite wisdom, decided to pull out our old deck 3 weeks ago. And it was still frozen, the ground was still frozen, but that didn't deter him. It was a nice weekend. And he pulled the, he's a service manager in a ag dealership. So he was able to bring the telehandler, which is a glorified forklift, home. And he took the deck out in 3 portions. And then he brought the flatbed and the big truck from work and brought it out to the owner's farm. And so now we're without a deck. And it's been a little bit tough because my dog usually goes out the deck, out to the backyard. So I've had to take her out all the time, take her for walks, which isn't a bad thing until this morning. And both her and I forgot there was not a deck out there, and it was dark. And my poor puppy fell off the ramp. There is a ramp, and she's okay, but it's, yeah. So it's like, hurry up and get the deck up. But we're kind of waiting for prices to go down a bit. So that's the one thing with COVID. The price of building materials has gone up, and yeah. So that's going to be probably this weekend. He might start putting footings in. So I think there'll be less stitching and more outdoor working. So, yeah.
Well, it's nice that outdoor is an option now. It just feels like it's been a long time coming to be outside and stuff. So
yeah, I agree.
I'm engineering a huge reorganization of the shop. So I foresee a couple of trips to IKEA in my future to buy some more bookcases and lots of furniture moving and stuff. So that's what's on my mind.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, I'm going to get out my sheets of graph paper and I'm going to plot out where everything is going to go. And
yep, the old copy and paste method.
Okay. Yeah, see what I can do to get some fabric efficiencies happening there. So yeah, we actually have a lot of fabric. Generally, it's not what people are looking for, but we've got a lot of fabric. So yeah, that'll work.
Well, and you bring up a good point. People tend to be so specific in that they want, but there are a lot of great fabrics out there. And I think just putting out to you guys, hey, pick a fabric for me. This is the color range. And I know you have people there that, boy, they can pick fabrics really well. So, trust your LNS or ONS to know what is a fabric, a good substitute, because we live in a time of let's substitute. Yeah.
Yeah. And the gals who do it spend a lot of time and effort and hard work on it. So it's not a in-time or untime consuming task, but they sure do a good job. And so I'm grateful that they have such a good eye and think outside the box. So that really makes a difference. Yeah. All right, so I guess we will touch base when it's time for the next installment of our stitch alongs.
Yes, but meanwhile, we will work on month 4. And month 4? Yeah, month 4.
Of Esther Blackwood already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Before
Well,
you know it.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
I will, and you also.
Okay. We'll talk to you
to you
soon.
again.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.